It wasn't supposed to happen, just a flicker, a wrong turn in the dark. I told myself it was nothing, easy to erase. We were at the AMC on 42nd, sticky floors and the smell of fake butter. My daughter Tiffany begged me to come with her and her boyfriend Ethan, said it would be fun, a way for me to get out. Right. She thought I was some shut-in, maybe I was. The theater was packed, seats scattered like confetti. Tiffany ended up a row back, yapping with some girl from her office. Ethan and I found two in the center near the aisle. I was about to slide into the seat next to him when some dude squeezed past, snagging it. "Just sit here," Ethan said, patting his lap, easy grin. I froze. "It's fine," he whispered, voice dropping low. "Just till Tiffany gets here." My pulse jumped. Harmless, I told myself. Dark theater, nobody watching, just a seat. So I sat. Didn't think it would mean anything. But the second his hands landed light on my hips, steadying me, my skin prickled awake. Casual touch, but heat bloomed under my thin dress. The movie started, explosions and car chases, but I was deaf. Breathing felt shallow, pulse thrumming in my ears, louder than the fake gunshots. Finally, Tiffany shuffled down the aisle, squeezing into the seat beside me. I practically levitated off Ethan's lap, mumbled something about saving his spot. If she noticed anything, she didn't show it. But Ethan did. I caught his eyes in the dim light, and he didn't look away. That moment, a nothing moment, a mistake, right? Something to laugh about later, right? But the way his gaze lingered, it felt like a line crossed, one we couldn't uncross. The movie faded, but the theater incident, that small, stupid thing, stuck. It wasn't just the awkwardness, it was the reveal. Ethan wasn't just Tiffany's boyfriend anymore, some nice guy. He was a presence, a pull, something that made me see him differently. And worse, I knew he felt it too. Strange how a tiny slip could spiral, become something else entirely. I tried to reason it away, tell myself my mind was playing tricks. But that night, sleep was a battlefield. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt the heat of his hands on my hips, the solidness of his thighs under me, the quiet intensity in his eyes. Morning hit like a brick, groggy, annoyed at myself for obsessing. But then I walked into the kitchen, and there he was. Ethan, standing by the counter, pouring coffee like he owned the place. All those feelings, the confusion, the heat, slammed back. He looked up, caught my eye, a small quirk of a smile, enough to kickstart my pulse. "Morning," he said, voice smooth. Too casual. "Morning," I managed, grabbing a mug, busying myself with the coffee pot. Act normal, act like my skin wasn't buzzing under his gaze. "Tiffany's still out," he said, leaning against the counter, watching me. "Late night," I mumbled, avoiding his eyes. "Yeah," he said. Then, after a beat, "You okay? You seem distracted." I froze, mug clutched too tight. "I'm fine," I said, too fast, forcing a smile. "Just tired." He didn't push it, but I felt his eyes on me as I escaped the kitchen. Ethan had been with Tiffany 6 months. She met him at some networking thing for young professionals, her words, not mine. Tiffany, ambitious, sharp, all the confidence of a 22-year-old fresh out of NYU. When she brought Ethan home the first time, I was surprised. Older than her usual type, 25, polished, charming, in a way that felt effortless. The kind of guy who remembered everyone's name, could make you laugh without trying. I liked him instantly, maybe too much. At first, I brushed it off. Of course, I liked him. Polite, respectful, clearly crazy about Tiffany. But as time ticked by, I started seeing things I shouldn't. The way his hand lingered a beat too long when he passed me something at dinner. The way his eyes seemed to find me across the room, holding my gaze just a fraction longer than polite. The compliments always casual, always polite, but with an undertone, a whisper meant only for me. "Miss Hayes, I can't believe you're Tiffany's mom," he'd said once, laughing, helping me clear the table after dinner. "You don't look old enough to have a daughter her age." I'd laughed it off, called him a charmer, but my cheeks burned. Harmless flirting, I told myself, if you could even call it that, meant nothing. Young, confident, of course, he was friendly. But deep down, a knot of something else tightened in my stomach. And then, the movie night. After that, everything shifted. A week after the theater, Tiffany asked me to let Ethan in. She was running late from work. Rainy evening, classic New York gloom. Doorbell rang, and there he was, dark hair slicked back with rain, coat dripping on my stoop. "Sorry," he said, flashing that easy smile. "Didn't mean to interrupt your evening." "It's fine," I said, stepping back, letting him in. He shrugged off his coat, handing it to me, and for a split second, his fingers brushed mine. Nothing. Just a touch, but a spark jumped up my arm. Living room's this way, I said, voice trying to stay steady. Tiffany should be back soon. Instead of the living room, he followed me into the kitchen, leaning against the counter as I poured myself a glass of Pinot Grigio. Want one? I asked, holding up the bottle. Sure, he said, voice low. I handed him a glass. He held it up. Mock toast. 2 awkward movie nights, he said, smirking. I almost choked on my wine. Don't, I said, laughing despite myself. What? He asked, feigning innocence. Funny memory? It's embarrassing, I said, shaking my head. For who? He asked, raising an eyebrow. The question hung there heavy. I didn't answer. He didn't push. But as he sipped his wine, his eyes stayed locked on me, unblinking. I should have walked away, made an excuse, left the room. But I didn't. I stayed, leaning against the counter across from him, silence crackling between us, thick with something unspoken. You're different, he said suddenly, voice soft. I frowned, caught off guard. Different how? I don't know, he said, swirling the wine in his glass. You carry yourself differently, like you know exactly who you are. Compliment caught me off balance. For a moment, I was speechless. Guess that comes with age, I said finally, trying to brush it off. Maybe, he said, gaze steady, but I think it's more than that. My heart hammered, hated how much his words affected me. Opened my mouth to say something, anything, but before I could, he reached out, his hand brushing against mine. Small gesture, barely a touch, but a jolt. I froze, staring at him. World seemed to tilt. Ethan, I started, voice trembling, but then the sound of Tiffany's cab pulling up outside. Moment snapped like a twig. He pulled his hand back, expression unreadable. I turned away, busying myself with the wine bottle as Tiffany walked in, cheerful. Hey guys! That moment should have been a warning. Flashing red light. Distance, before it was too late, but instead it became the first crack in the wall I'd spent years building. I don't know exactly when the line blurred. Maybe that night in the kitchen, his hand brushing mine. Or the way he looked at me, intensity that made my stomach flip. Or maybe it had been building for weeks, unspoken tension disguised as polite glances, casual talk. All I knew was I couldn't stop thinking about him. The moment that truly changed everything happened the following Saturday. Tiffany went out with friends, clubbing downtown, leaving the apartment unusually quiet. I settled on the couch, glass of wine, TCM, trying to enjoy the rare peace. Didn't expect Ethan to stop by, but then the doorbell buzzed. Tiffany's not here, I said, opening the door, stepping back to let him in. I know, he said, shrugging off his jacket. She told me she'd be out, but I figured I'd drop by anyway. Didn't want you getting lonely. Smile casual, but tone, not so much. Told myself he was just being polite, reading too much into it. But as he followed me into the living room, his presence filled the space, impossible to ignore. Wine? I asked, gesturing to the bottle on the coffee table. Sure, he said, sinking onto the couch like he belonged there, 100 times before. I poured him a glass, sat down at the other end of the couch, leaving space. Neutral zone. At least that was the plan. What are you watching? He asked, nodding toward the TV. Some old noir film, I said, probably before your time. He laughed, soft, eyes flicking to mine. You're not that much older than me. I raised an eyebrow. Old enough to be your girlfriend's mother. But you're not, he said, voice low. Air between us shifted, weight of his words settling. I should have changed the subject, made an excuse, left the room, but I didn't. Movie flickered in the background, Bogart and Bacall, but neither of us watching. He leaned back, arm draped casual over the back of the couch, gaze never leaving me. You know, he said, after a long pause, you're different from anyone I've ever met. I laughed, trying to break the tension. I'm sure Tiffany would love to hear that. I'm serious, he said, tone soft but firm. You're confident. You know who you are. It's rare. Cheeks flushed, looked away, swirling wine in my glass. You shouldn't say things like that, I murmured. Why not? He asked, leaning closer. Because it's inappropriate, I said, voice trembling. He didn't answer right away. When I finally looked at him, face inches from mine, eyes searching, world seemed to pause. You feel it too, don't you? He whispered. I froze, heart pounding. Ethan, we can't... But before I could finish, his lips were on mine, kiss soft at first, tentative, like he was waiting for me to pull away, but I didn't. Couldn't. Glass slipped from my hand, landing on the rug with a soft thud. Leaned into him, hands gripping his shirt. Touch careful, almost reverent. When he deepened the kiss, every rational thought vanished. Ethan, I whispered, breaking the kiss, breath catching. This is... Don't, he said, voice low, desperate. Don't say it's wrong. But it was wrong. We both knew it, didn't stop me from pulling him closer, didn't make it to the bedroom. Couch became our world, flickering TV light casting shadows across his face as he kissed me like he'd been waiting forever, hands exploring, mixture of confidence and hesitation. For the first time in years, I felt alive. Not just the physical connection, it was the way he looked at me, like I was the only person who mattered. When it was over, we lay there, tangled, silence. Reality of what we'd done slowly sinking in. I shouldn't have come, he said finally, voice barely audible. No, I said, voice trembling. You shouldn't have. He turned to look at me, expression soft, conflicted. Do you want me to leave? I hesitated, heart ached. I don't know. Next morning, I woke up. He was gone. Couch empty, wine glasses on the coffee table, stared at the empty space, mind racing, told myself it was a one-time mistake, wouldn't happen again. Deep down, I knew better. Days blurred into a haze of guilt and anticipation. Avoided Tiffany as much as possible, terrified she'd see the truth on my face. But Ethan, he was everywhere. Texted late at night, messages simple, loaded, thinking about you, can't stop. Didn't respond at first. Longer I resisted, the more I wanted to see him again. Then he showed up at my office, late, after everyone else had gone. Going over design plans for a Tribeca loft, door to my office creaked open. Ethan? I said, startled. He stepped inside, closed the door behind him. Couldn't stay away, he said, voice low. You can't be here, I said, standing up. Why not? He asked, stepping closer. Because this is my workplace, I said, voice weak. And then he was there, his eyes locking on mine. Before I could breathe, he closed the distance, hands finding my waist. Ethan, someone could... They won't, he said, cutting me off with a kiss. That night, the small couch in my office became our refuge. Risk of being caught only heightened the intensity. When he finally left, I sat there in the dark, heart racing, mind a whirlwind. Told myself it couldn't continue, too dangerous, too reckless. But next time he called, I didn't hesitate. Once we crossed the line, no going back. Not just a moment of weakness anymore, something deeper, something neither of us could resist. Ethan and I fell into a dangerous rhythm, blurred lines between secrecy and obsession. Knew we were playing with fire, but every stolen moment made the flames burn hotter. Started with late-night visits to my apartment when Tiffany was out. Text, "Can I see you?" Minutes later, he'd be at the door, slipping inside like a shadow, each time riskier. Thrill of it only added to the intensity. One evening, Tiffany went to a friend's birthday party, promised she'd be out late. Ethan showed up an hour after she left, slipping in through the back door like he belonged there. You shouldn't keep doing this, I said as he stepped inside, hair damp from the rain. Neither should you, he replied, sly grin. Didn't wait for me to argue. Closed the distance, hands finding my waist, pressed me against the kitchen counter. Rain outside blurred the windows, pounding against the glass, only sound breaking the silence. You make it impossible to stay away, he murmured, lips brushing my neck. Didn't answer. Couldn't. Places we met became more reckless. Afternoon in his car, parked in a secluded spot in Riverside Park. Windows fogged, summer heat thick, sticky. Didn't care. Another time, boutique hotel in the West Village. Told Tiffany I was meeting a client, left work early. Hands shaking as I walked into the lobby. Ethan waiting in the room, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. Door closed, tension melted into something electric. Room small, intimate, every sound amplified. Rustle of sheets, soft gasps, hum of the AC, all consuming. You drive me crazy, he said afterward, head resting on the pillow, tracing lazy circles on my arm. Didn't respond. Couldn't say what I was thinking. Felt the same way. But the more time we spent together, harder to hide. Tiffany started noticing. Way Ethan lingered at the apartment, always finding a reason to stay longer. One evening, dinner table, offhand comment that iced my blood. You two get along so well, she said, glancing between me and Ethan. Sometimes I think he likes you more than he likes me. Fork froze halfway to my mouth. Ethan didn't miss a beat. "She's just easy to talk to," he said smoothly, flashing Tiffany a charming smile. "You should be glad your mom's so cool." Tiffany laughed, brushed it off, but the comment hung in the air, thick as smoke. Not just Tiffany, my best friend Evelyn started asking questions. "You seem different lately," she said one afternoon, coffee shop in the village. "Different how?" I asked, feigning ignorance. Evelyn tilted her head, studying me. "I don't know. Distracted, like your mind's somewhere else." Forced a laugh, shook my head. "Think you're imagining things." "Am I?" she asked, voice soft, probing, avoided her gaze, focused on the steam rising from my latte. Evelyn didn't press further, but I could tell she wasn't convinced. Close calls piled up, each one heart-pounding, nerves frayed. One night, Tiffany gone to bed, Ethan and I in the living room. Lights dim, perched on opposite ends of the couch, maintaining distance. But when he reached out, fingers brushing mine, room seemed to shrink. Didn't hear Tiffany coming down the stairs until too late. "What are you two still doing up?" she asked, yawning, stepping into the room. "Just talking," I said quickly, pulling my hand back. Ethan smiled, composure flawless. "Your mom's got some interesting stories," he said, leaning back casually. Tiffany didn't seem to notice the tension, but I excused myself shortly after, retreated to my bedroom, heart hammering. Worst moment came one afternoon when David, my ex-husband, Tiffany's father, showed up unannounced. Visiting from out of town, decided to surprise Tiffany. Caught me and Ethan in the kitchen, quiet conversation. "What's going on here?" David asked, tone sharp. "Nothing," I said quickly, stepping away from Ethan. "We were just talking." David's eyes flicked between us, expression hard to read. "Talking, huh?" Ethan handled it better than me. Quick explanation about helping Tiffany with a project, but the tension in the room was suffocating. Despite the risks, we couldn't stop. Every touch, every kiss, every stolen moment deepened the connection. Not just desire anymore. How he made me feel alive. Seen. Like I mattered in a way I hadn't in years. But closer we got, more I wondered how it would end. Ethan started talking about a future, leaving everything behind, starting over. "Come with me," he said one night, tangled on the couch. "We could make this work." Wanted to say yes, believe it, but reality loomed, storm cloud. "This can't last," I whispered, more to myself. He didn't respond. Look in his eyes told me he wasn't ready to let go. Cracks in our secret world showing. Knew it was only time before everything crashed. Always knew it would come to this. Too reckless, too bold. Told myself we could control it. Deep down, knew the truth. Secrets like this never stay buried. Day it all unraveled started like any other. Tiffany went to yoga, West Side studio, apartment quiet, still. Ethan texted morning, asked if he could stop by. Hesitated, just for a little while. When he arrived, tension palpable. Kissed me the moment he stepped inside, hands sliding to my waist, tried half-heartedly to push him away. "Not here," I said, voice trembling. "Why not?" he murmured against my neck. "It's just us." But it wasn't just us. Not really. Ended up on the couch, living room. Same spot where it all started. Sunlight streaming through the curtains, mocking, illuminating our secret world. Too distracted, too caught up, didn't hear the front door open. "Mom?" Tiffany's voice froze me. Ethan and I sprang apart. Too late. Tiffany stood in the doorway, yoga mat slung over her shoulder. Expression. Confusion. Growing horror. "What the hell is going on?" she asked, voice trembling. Couldn't speak. Throat dry. Mind racing for words that wouldn't come. "Tiffany," Ethan started, stepping toward her. "Don't," she snapped, hand up. "Don't you dare." Eyes shifted to me, betrayal in her gaze, knife to the chest. "How long?" she demanded. "Tiffany, it's not—" "How long?" she repeated, voice breaking, swallowed hard, hands trembling. It just happened. I didn't mean for this to happen." "Are you serious right now?" she interrupted, voice rising. Tears streamed down her face, looked between me and Ethan. "You're my mother. How could you? How could both of you?" Didn't finish. Dropped her yoga mat, stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door. For a moment, neither of us moved. Weight of what just happened pressed down, suffocating. "I should go after her," I said finally, voice shaking. Ethan grabbed my arm, grip firm, not forceful. "Give her some time," he said softly. "She hates me," I whispered, tears blurring my vision. "She doesn't hate you," he said. But even he didn't sound convinced. Tiffany didn't come home that night, didn't answer calls, texts. Next morning, knew she'd gone to Evelyn's. That's when the second blow landed. Evelyn called late afternoon, voice sharp, unforgiving. Told me everything. Sank onto the edge of the bed, stomach twisting. Evelyn, How could you? She interrupted, voice trembling with anger. How could you do this to her? To yourself? I didn't mean for it to happen, I said weakly. That doesn't matter, she snapped. You betrayed her. You betrayed me. Do you have any idea what you've done? Didn't answer. What could I say? I can't do this, Sarah, she said, long pause. I can't stand by and watch you ruin everything. Don't call me again. Line went dead. Fallout came fast, hard. Tiffany didn't just cut me out, went out of her way to make sure everyone knew, told my colleagues, friends, even some clients. Whispers started almost immediately. Polite, pointed calls, canceling appointments. Ethan wasn't spared. Tiffany contacted his law firm. Affair. Details enough to get him suspended from his internship. Could see the strain on his face every time we talked. This is my fault, I said one night, parked on a quiet street in his car. No, he said firmly. This is our fault. Don't take all the blame. But I couldn't shake the guilt. Breaking point came a week later. Ethan showed up at my apartment, face pale, drawn. I can't do this anymore, he said, voice barely above a whisper. Stared at him, chest tightening. Do what? This, he said, gesturing between us. It's tearing everything apart. Tiffany hates me. Your life's falling apart. And now my career... Trailed off, hand through his hair. Maybe we should take a break. Give things time to settle. Words like a punch. But I nodded. Knew he was right. Okay, I said quietly. He leaned in, soft kiss on my forehead. I'm sorry, he whispered. Then he was gone. Left with nothing but ruins. Tiffany gone. Evelyn gone. Ethan disappeared as quickly as he'd entered. Apartment emptier than ever. For the first time, I wondered if it had all been worth it. Silence in the apartment, deafening. Not just absence of sound, absence of everything. Tiffany's laughter, Evelyn's weekly check-ins, Ethan's quiet knock at the back door. All gone. Truly alone, for the first time in years. Days blurred. Went through motions, waking up, making coffee, sitting at the kitchen table, morning light, phone silent, missed appointments, canceled clients. Evelyn made good on her promise. Tiffany didn't respond to texts, calls, thought I'd feel relief with Ethan gone. Space he left behind only made the emptiness worse. Weeks turned into months. Sold a few more houses, referrals from people who hadn't heard the whispers. Poured myself into work, hoping for distraction. Every quiet moment, reminder of what I'd lost. One night, bed, scrolling through old photos. Tiffany, college graduation, beaming smile, diploma, me and Evelyn, wine tasting, laughing, clinking glasses. And then Ethan. Few photos, innocuous group shots, family dinners, candid, helping Tiffany set the table. Even in those, I could see it. Way he looked at me. Put the phone down, closed my eyes, wanted to hate him for what we'd done. Chaos, but couldn't. Letter came in the mail, gray, rainy afternoon. Handwritten, plain envelope. Knew it was from him before I opened it. Sarah, I've thought about writing this for weeks, but wasn't sure if I should. Wanted to give you space, let you heal, but I can't stop thinking about you. I don't regret what we had. Not for a second. You made me feel alive in ways I didn't know were possible, but I know I hurt you, and I know I hurt Tiffany. Can't undo that. Hope someday you'll find it in your heart to forgive me. I'm in Chicago now, starting over. If you ever want to talk or anything, you know where to find me. Ethan. Read it 3 times. Folded it carefully, set it on the table. Chest ached, longing, guilt. Next day, picked up phone, scrolling through contacts. Tiffany's name. Finger hovered over the call button. Heart pounding. Pressed it. Rang twice. Voicemail. Hi, sweetheart, I said, voice trembling. It's me. Just wanted to say, I'm sorry. For everything. I know I hurt you. I'll regret that for the rest of my life. I hope someday you can forgive me. I love you. Hung up, tears streaming. Ethan's letters stayed on the table for weeks. Thought about writing back, hopping on a plane to Chicago, seeing if we could pick up pieces. Every time I reached for the envelope, stopped myself. Wasn't ready. Maybe never would be. For now, all I could do was sit with the silence. Try to figure out who I was. Without him, without Tiffany, without anyone. Maybe that was enough.